Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Daily Dose. My name is Brian McIntosh. I apologize for the small leave of absence. I think it's been 4 or 5 days since I laid down a Daily Dose, and that's probably the longest I've gone in months without releasing a new message. But I got to tell you, there was a really good reason. I've been traveling all over the United States. I just got back from Virginia Beach. Our company is going absolutely nuclear. We're having so much growth, so much production, so much momentum, so many promotions, so many people's lives being changed, so many great incomes being made by friends of mine and people I care about. It's just been absolutely unbelievable. My hat is off to all those folks out there and how hard they work. I know a lot of them are subscribers and listeners to the Daily Dose, so if you're hearing this, you know I'm talking about you, right? But while I was out there, I had a chance to receive some training from a gentleman that I've heard train before. And he's phenomenal, man. I mean, he's just one of the greatest trainers that I've ever heard. But what I found really fantastic was he was up there training without any notes at all, which doesn't surprise me because he's a great speaker. A lot of great speakers don't use notes. But what was surprising was that much of what I heard was exactly, I mean almost word for word, what I have heard him do in other trainings. And it's phenomenal. You'd never know it. Unless you'd heard him do more than one training, you'd never know it. It sounds like he's just being conversational, like he's just, going, it almost sounds like he's, it's just flowing from his heart, right? But what I learned watching him was that this is very carefully written, practiced, and rehearsed. Not just the verbiage, but the delivery, so that it comes across that way every single time. And I gotta tell you, it was extremely impactful for a number of reasons. Number one, because I realized that pros, like this gentleman, he's a pro, and professionals practice and hone their skills until it looks effortless. And that's really why they are professionals. And what defines them as a professional is they're so good that by the time they get up on stage and get ready to speak, or get ready to sell, or get ready to golf, or get ready to do whatever it is they do that they're a professional at, they're not trying anymore. They're simply remembering. They're simply doing from within because it's here and it's here and therefore it just comes out here and everywhere else. So it was really, really impressive. But I also got a copy of this man's CDs and I've been listening to some of his stuff, right? And one of the things that I learned today listening to this audio was the method by which he became so good, so practiced, and so rehearsed, and so natural, and the delivery was so real, even though this information is memorized. And the answer is unconscious competence. Now, I know that sounds a little crazy, but let me explain. When you're first learning something, or when you're first introduced some new information or a new idea, you are what we call unconscious incompetent. In other words, you don't know what you don't know. The very first time I ever heard about personal development, I didn't realize that there was such a thing as personal development. So I was unconsciously incompetent. I was incompetent in personal development, but I didn't even know I was incompetent because I didn't even know it existed. And that's what unconscious incompetent means. It means that you don't even know what you don't know. So anytime you're learning something new, you were unconscious incompetent in that area or that idea or that thing before you heard about it. But once you heard about it, and once you know, now you're what we call conscious incompetent. In other words, now you know what you don't know, right? You know this exists and you know you're not very good at it. This is the stage at which you're going to be applying yourself to learn as much as you can. You become a student of the craft or a student of the industry. You learn from teachers that have been where you want to be and can teach you from a success standpoint. This is critical, guys. When you're in the conscious incompetent stage of learning something, you need to make sure that your teacher has done it before. And this goes for me too, right? Now, you're sitting here listening on the Daily Dose, you're like, Brian, why should I take your advice on things? Ask me. There's any number of things that I've done that I believe make me qualified to deliver some of this information. But you'll also notice there's a lot of things that I probably don't talk about because I'm not necessarily qualified. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to make millions of dollars in real estate. I've never done it. I'm not going to tell you how to be a professional stock investor. I haven't done that. But if you want to make a lot of money in network marketing, I can teach you that. If you want to learn how to develop personally, improve your relationships, and improve your ability to communicate, I can teach you that. So make sure that when you're in the conscious and competent stage, that your mentor, your teacher, has a foundation to teach from. That they're not just spouting off. For example, the author of Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, I think that dude's been divorced like twice. And I'm thinking to myself, you're going to write a book that you want me to read on how men and women are different when clearly you haven't really figured it out for yourself, right? Or maybe he has by now, I don't know. But my point is, check the fruit on the tree. Now, once you begin to consume this information, you become good at it, or not necessarily good at it, but you understand enough of the information that you can begin to apply it, you're now what we call conscious competent. And that means that you're competent, but you got to think about it. You got to remember the steps, or remember the stages, or remember the words, or remember the techniques, or remember the procedures. It's conscious. Remember when you were first learning to drive, you got behind the wheel of a car, right? And you had to remember, okay, clutch, then gas, then shift, blinker, red means stop, right? All these things. Can you imagine if you had to do all of that now every time you got in a vehicle? Okay? But that's called conscious competence. You knew how to drive a car, but you literally had to walk yourself through every single step. And it's going to be that way in your endeavors. So what I'm giving you guys here is the formula from going from nothing to becoming a professional in any industry, in any area, in any sport, in your relationships, business, finances, whatever it is you're trying to do. Understand you're going to have to go through all 4 stages. There is no shortcut. The price that must be paid for being successful in any area is going through all 4 of these things. So conscious competence means you know what you're doing, but you've still got to think about it. It still takes conscious effort. Now, once you've done something so many times that you've become so good at it that it just flows out of you naturally, that's called unconscious competence. In other words, you're competent, but you don't even have to think about it anymore. A good example of this is walking. Right? When you're a child, right? Kids are like left foot, right foot, right? Don't fall, hang on, right? When was the last time you had to think about how to walk? When was the last time you had to think about how to start your car? When was the last time you had to go through the mental steps in your mind for how to find your keys in your purse and open up the front door, or any number of different things that you do now in your life completely unconsciously? How many of us have ever driven to work and got there and couldn't remember a single thing about the drive? That's called unconscious competence. And when you have practiced, drilled, and rehearsed, whatever it is you're trying to be good at, whether it's golf or selling insurance, whatever it is you're trying to do, if you will practice, drill, and rehearse until you got it down so well that it just flows out of you effortlessly, you don't even have to think about it, then you have reached the stage of unconscious competence, and that's when you begin to be paid like a professional, because that's where all professionals are in their craft. And that's what this gentleman demonstrated for me up on that stage, was unconscious competence. He delivered messages that were powerful and on point and life-changing and made it look effortless, and he made it look like it was the first time he'd ever done it because it didn't look rehearsed or memorized. It looked natural, it looked spontaneous, it looked emotional but very professional, and all of that was orchestrated and practiced and drilled and rehearsed to look that way. And so what I learned was not only the information that he was delivering, but I learned the importance of becoming unconsciously competent at delivering information if you want to be effective doing it. So, here's what you should do. Good enough seldom is. If you want to be a true professional in any endeavor, whether it's exercise, whether it's business, investing, financing, selling, communication, relationships, spirituality, you must practice, drill, and rehearse until you can execute without even thinking. And when you're there, you'll be a professional. And you'll be paid the way the professionals are paid. And that's the dose. I'll see you tomorrow.